Hi guys, it's Krista from Playing with Purpose, and today I'm going to answer a question that I had several weeks ago. This question came in from Primary Adventures Now, and I apologize that it's taken me this long to get back to your question, but things have been busy, and today I'm going to attempt to answer your question. If you're new here, my name is Krista, and I'm a childcare provider for up to 5 children. And on my channel, you'll find tips and tricks, all things related to childcare, shopping hauls, and the odd family vlog. She asked several questions, so I'm just going to go through them and I'll answer them the best I can. The first question was, how do you transition children to my style of classroom? So when I'm starting with children in my program, it's typically a 1-year-old because usually they stay with me until they start school. And then I start with a new child when parents are looking for care at around 1. So if I use this year, for example, I had 3 older children all graduate my program at once. And I have 2 kids that were at the time 2 in September, and then I had 3 little ones start. So I had a very young group. And so what I do is I always get the older kids to model the younger kids, and I also model. So if we're playing with activities, I sit down and play with them, and I show them how different activities work. Often when I change out my classroom, children are so excited to see all the materials that they run from one activity to another, and it's just a constant zooming around the room. And so I usually show a little bit of grace that first few days, but once everybody has had an opportunity to see everything in the room, if I see a child is running from one toy to another, I might say, please pick up these toys before you start a new activity, just to help keep the classroom a little bit less cluttered. But I will say that our class gets messy just like any other class, and at the end, before we transition to play outside, we always do a cleanup. And if you're finding it overwhelming yourself as a teacher, take out less toys. You have to gauge your children and you have to see what they're able to clean up on their own and what are they able to manage. So at the beginning of any year, I always start really small and then just gradually add in more if I need to. But I always go by what I feel that they can handle. As far as dumping mess, developmentally, a lot of times children just love to gather all the toys and put them in places. And so if I see that they're engaged in play and they're sort of dumping things all over, I don't necessarily stop them from doing that. It depends on if they're being productive or not. If they're engaged in play and it doesn't make sense to me, but you can see that clearly that the child is engaged and playing and being imaginative and not destructive in any way, then I leave it, because I think that it's important for them to play with the materials the way they want to. However, if I feel that they are being destructive and not respecting the toys, then I might step in and I might say, gentle, please. And because I have 3 1-year-olds, I allow them to explore the room, and then when it's cleanup time, I teach them how to clean up. So eventually we'll get to a place where they're older and they understand how the classroom works. But I definitely give them a lot of grace. Modeling is really important. When I have the older children, I always make sure that they play a really important role in teaching the young ones. So for example, we always take attendance when we're about to go outside. And when we do this, I have the older children help raise the hands of the little friends. And so I might call their name Johnny, and then Andrew might go over and help little Johnny raise his hand. Within a few weeks of doing this, the younger children know that somebody's going to come over and raise their hand. And eventually it all becomes a normal part of our routine. And so I really think it's important to have those older children take those roles on, because it's their peers and it's a great way to scaffold the learning. So the next question is, how do you prevent running in your classroom? Setup is also extremely important. So if you're setting your classroom up, make sure that you're setting it up in a way that there's not a lot of room for running. And also, when you have rules like no running in the classroom, make sure you explain why we have these rules. Children need to understand why. So we don't run in the classroom because somebody's going to get hurt. When children understand the why, they're much more likely to comply. The last question was, What strategies do I use to prevent injuries since I use heavy wood? So I'm a big advocate for risky play, and what that means is do dangerous things safely. So I allow children to do things that are considered dangerous, but I really evaluate the risk. So if a child is going to fall off a chair, but it's this far from the ground, then I want to allow the children to experience that, because what they're going to do is they're going to correct their next time, because they're going to realize that when they move their body a certain way, it caused something negative to happen. You'll see that if you start to step back and allow children to manage things a little bit more on their own, they're going to be a lot more careful and more aware of themselves. It helps children to understand their own bodies and what they're capable of. Our home is heated with wood, and one of our favorite activities in the morning before coming downstairs is to bring in the wood. And all my little friends love to help out with this chore. And usually we start off with smaller sticks. So we have some wood that is lighter wood and they can carry a big one, but it's still kind of light. And then we have other wood that's hardwood. And I let the children decide if they think that they're able to carry it or not. So I'll hand them a piece and then I'll say, do you think you'll be able to carry this one? And then they'll tell me yes or no. Small injuries help children understand how to correct certain things that they do every day. If we try to prevent every kind of injury that they're going to have, then we're actually taking away the opportunity for the children to learn these skills. And so I let the children figure out what they think their bodies are capable of doing. So I hope these answered your questions, and if you ever have any questions, let me know in the comments below and I'm happy to answer them. I'm Krista with Playing with Purpose. I'll see you next time.